Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats. Chaps Chat Cats. I finally stuffed it up, John.
You stuffed it up
We're
after
a part of the
200 plus
200
episodes.
plus episodes. I've always said to people, nah, you can learn it. It's fine. It's fine. The mighty have fallen. Finally stuffed it up. We are the Chaps Chat Cats. We're part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the man you've already heard, Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, Johnny?
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good. How are you? On this another wet day in summer in the northeast of Victoria.
Sweaty weather out here. Sweaty. I don't know if it's just in the house. Yep. You know, the outdoors cools down quicker than the inside, so I don't know. It's yeah, I'm sweating, but it's all right. It's keeping me in the game.
But then when the rain stops, outside also gets sweaty, and then inside gets even more.
It'll
sweaty.
heat up.
So it's just
awful stuff. Just an awful.
It's just awful situation we have ourselves in.
Good for the veggies, though, John.
Yes, unless it's too much rain.
Well, that's true as well. Too much of a good thing. You just want a bit of sun, bit of rain. You know what I mean? Yep. Really juice it all up. So, what are you harvesting at the moment out of the garden, John?
Just tomatoes, cucumbers, and a couple of zucchinis every now and then.
Zooks?
Yeah. They haven't gone too well.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, weird season for tomatoes for us. We haven't had a lot. I know everyone signs up the Chaps Chat farming, but the Chaps Chat gardening.
I've had a few tomatoes.
A few. Yeah, no, we've really struggled with the old tomatoes. Zucchinis are just coming in. Got some scarlet runner beans happening. A lot of fruit on the fruit trees. Some Japanese blood plums, some nashies, some pears.
Ooh.
Apples on the go. All right. A lot of different varieties of fruit and vegetable discussed there, John. And we're going to discuss a lot of varieties of Geelong Cats tonight as we jump into, that's what they call a segue in the business, baby. On the show, we have What We Want to See, Volume 3. We're going to be cycling through 6 different cats and what we want to see from them in 2024. It's a good combo of youngsters and veterans. So we're going to be going through all of that on the public part of the show, which will make up the biggest portion of the episode. After that, we're going to dive in for the final section of our immortal moments when we choose which moments from Geelong's 21st century dynasty we would get inked on our skin. We've already had a couple of episodes of that. We're going to do our final one tonight there, and that is for Patreon subscribers only. So if you want access to the extended show, please go on over to the Hoops Crew on Patreon. Subscribe. It's $5 Aussie bucks a month. You get access to early access shows. Ben and Paul have been churning out a bunch of episodes of the summer series, a bunch of those with Phoenix Foster. You get access to the extended versions of our shows. I've been writing some articles. There's a summer of scouting, season of scouting, whatever I called it. Profiles on Mitch Nevitt, and I'm trying to think. I think I did Toby Conway from memory, the second one. Anyway, there's 2 up there. If you would like to go and have a read with more to come, so go on over and do that. The goal is for me to reach 30 Patreon subscribers by the end of the season. That's the goal. By the end of 2024, I want 30. I like so if you really enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the YouTube content, if you like what we on the Chaps put out, if you like what Ben and Paul are putting out, go on over. $5 Aussie bucks a month. It's Cats coverage year-round, AFL, men's and women's, VFL, men's and women's, the whole lot, the whole shebang, year-round.
Everything.
Let's get into it, Johnny. What we want to see in 2024. This is the 3rd installment of this. We may yet get another installment or 2 of this in as we try and cover all the players ahead of the 2024 season. I'm going to kick us off here, Johnny. I'm going to kick us off. You did the honors, I think, last time. Sam did the honors as well. So I'll jump in head first here. And I'm going to take a look at what we want to see in 2024 from second year Geelong Cat Ted Clohesy. Ted Clohesy, easily one of my favourite players to watch in the VFL last season. He managed 18 games in the year for the Cats. Actually played one game for the Geelong VFL side at the end of 2022. I think before he'd been drafted by the Cats. You know how they cycle players in and out from other clubs to get a look at them. Drafted, obviously, for the Cats. Last season, played his first full season as a Cat. 18 games. And, I was sort of fascinated to watch him. He came out of the draft sort of as a renowned sort of hard nut inside midfielder, good contested sort of player, but probably needing to work on the other areas of his game, the sort of the outside part of his game. Rookie Me Central has a great draft profile on him, and I've written a fair bit about him here and there on our Patreon. And so that's what they really did in 2024. 2023. They put him in situations where he would be involved in uncontested situations where he'd be helping to link play through the midfield, getting him to work on his decision making and his disposal skill, which was really good to see. A really nice little surprise for me was his ability to hit the scoreboard. He kicked 13 goals, which was, I think, the third most for the Cats, third or fourth most for the Cats last season.
Nice.
Combination of his ability to pressure up forward, but also just some clever positioning, some brave marking. So I liked what I saw. But what I want to see from Ted Clohesy in 2024, and this is whether it's at VFL or AFL level, whichever it happens to be. And I think, to be honest, he won't. I'd be surprised if he cracked the team in week one.
Yep.
I want to see him racking up a bit more of the ball. I think that would be encouraging to see. Now, unless he's ultimately not going to be that inside ball winner, unless there's a comparison I made to him with Sam Powell-Pepper for Port Adelaide, that maybe he's more going to be a pressuring forward / midfielder, like do a bit of a hybrid sort of role. Now, he could do that, and in which case he doesn't need to get 25 touches a game. He could get 17, 18 touches a game if he's laying a bunch of tackles and kicking goals. But I would just like to see him probably stay involved in the play a little more. There was periods last year he'd look so good for a quarter, then he'd drift out of the game. And he'd maybe drift back in by the end. But there was just a few times where I was like, I'd really love to see him here again. And they obviously had a lot of talent to roll through the midfield. But wherever they line him up in 2024, I'd just like to see him staying involved in the match, because there's so many ways he can impact the game, not just his ball winning, but his defensive, his goal kicking. I've heard that he was playing some stuff down back in training. So that's what I want to see. Just more, I guess, more of him with the ball in his hand. If it's a contested ball winning role, then yeah, I'd love to see him clock 20 plus touches a few more times. He's only done it twice in 19 VFL games. So yeah, more. Give me just quantity.
More.
Get a bit of quantity up. I know the quality is there, Johnny.
Yep.
In terms of his ability to impact games, get that quantity up a bit.
That'd be nice.
So that's my feelings on Ted Clohesy.
I like it. I agree with you. You obviously know a lot more about Ted Clohesy than what I was see, but he did play a couple of games this year, and yeah, as you said, he looked good period of games, but yeah, there was sometimes where he dropped out, and I think just getting that consistency will help him a lot. But yeah, as you said,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough to try and crack into round one, especially if all the senior guys are all fit, raring to go. They're all going to be wanting to play round one as well. So it's a lot of healthy competition for those spots this year, which is good. It's good for the Cats.
Absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. If you want to go back and watch some of his best games, GWS Giants round 22 in the VFL was really good. 19 touches, 4 tackles, 4 marks. He kicked a goal and took one of the best bravest contested marks inside forward 50 that you are likely to see, to be honest. And the response of his teammates showed just how much they loved him. Instantly got around him. So, yeah, I think he's a very popular team member.
Nice.
And hopefully just, keeps putting it together this season. All right, Johnny, what about for you? We want to know what you want to see from Patrick Dangerfield.
From the captain, what do I want to see from the captain? I just want to see a bit more of a consistent season from Patrick Dangerfield. He's had 1 year as captain. Joel Selwood's gone. I feel like he was sort of slowly getting a groove on how he wants to be captain. And I think just continue on from there. And we saw some really good games from him and some really pretty average, not so great games. I'd also like to see him get back to his consistently good, which he's not far from. And I think hopefully if we get Guthrie back for a whole season and maybe Tom Stewart
Mm,
through the midfield and then some of these other young guys coming through just to give him that support that he needs, I think he can really light up this season and focus more, if not light it up, focus more on the captain and maybe taking those captain moments, which we all know he's definitely capable of. Yeah, there's not a
mm.
whole lot more I want to see from Dangerfield Field than from last year. It's just embrace the captaincy, take it on, and find out consistency because that's what the Cats need in that midfield. Just a nice, consistent form from the captain. And I tell you, if Tom Stewart does play in the midfield, I think them two could work really well together. But if not, Cam Guthrie's in there. Guthrie and
Mm.
Dangerfield also work extremely well together. So if them two can team back up, I think that will help Dangerfield immensely. Apart from that, it's just go as usual. He knows what he needs to do. I feel like he'll work on his flaws from last year, this year, and really focus on ironing out all those little creases that he had last year, which, he's a very professional guy. It's going to be hard not to see him
Mm.
get back to some of his best. Like, he's not going to play 2016 or other seasons' best, but if you
Mm.
can find like games and moments to really lift a team, that would be really nice. But apart from that, it's just, iron out those issues that he had last year, and I think he'll do fine. He's too much of an elite player to not fix small issues of his game.
Yeah, I was just having a look across his stats. Kind of interesting. He actually averaged a career high goal assists, 1.3 goal assists per game. He's never had a
Right.
season higher than that. Um, tackles was the highest tackling number he'd had since 2019, 3.7
Yeah,
per game. His
nice.
clearances were 5.6, which is, if you looked at his career average, which is a little misleading because it takes into account everything, including his first few seasons at Adelaide, where it was like 3.5, 3. Um, his clearances were about on his career average at 5.6. I was just trying to click down and have a look at 2023 as a whole for Danger too. Um, like just how the games, I suppose, like stacked up for him. It's
Mm,
been interesting, Johnny, the last few seasons. If you look when he from 2011 in Adelaide, say, I mean, even 2009, 21 games, 19 games, 22, 25, 20, 22, 23, gets to Geelong, plays 24 games, 24, 22, 24, 21. Now, 2021, we get there, 16 games. 2022, 18 games. Last year, 18 games. So, like, those injury niggles that have started, a combination of that and the Cats are always going to be sort of conservative with how they well, not conservative,
yeah,
but they're just going to be sensible how they manage
yeah,
their
definitely.
best players. But yeah, I'm like you. I think he's still got a lot to offer, and I think as we discussed on the last episode, so many of the problems the Cats faced last year come down to like just not getting enough help in the
Yeah,
midfield. We lacked. It was one thing to lack Selwood, then you lacked Cam Guthrie as well, and it's like, oh Jesus. Um, you know, two of those proficient ball winners both out. It was a lot to cover. So
Was a
I'm
lot,
with you. I think we can see an improved Danger.
most definitely.
Speaking of ball winners, Johnny, and players that maybe have been brought in to try and help
Look
in
at
that
you doing the
area.
segues. Jesus,
I'm a
look out.
professional, John.
It's the
Uh,
segue machine. Jake's taking your job.
that's right. Uh, Shaun Mannagh, who comes out of Werribee, um, was absolutely electric for Werribee last season in a year where they made a run to the grand final. I've been over his stats a few times on the podcast. And, if you haven't heard, here's just his disposal numbers last year for Werribee: 31, 40, 24, 12. In that game where and he only had 12, he kicked 3 goals, 1. 31 touches, 21 touches, 29, 27, 25, 29, 28, 25, 28, 21, 24, 24. Now, quiet game against Collingwood, 15 touches in that game. 29, quiet game against Box Hill, 13 touches, 1 goal. 19 touches, 1 goal, 2 in a prelim against Brisbane, which they won. But then he gets to the grand final, the big stage, Johnny. Shaun Mannagh,
Big
27
one.
touches, 6 marks, 6 goals, 2.
Whoa.
This is a different kind of cat, literally. 4 goals, 1 against Southport, 3 goals, 1 against Williamstown, 3 goals, 3 against Carlton, 7 goals, 1 against Sandringham, 3 goals, 3 against Frankston, 2 straight against Sydney, 6-2 in the grand final. Johnny, against the Cats in a game that we actually won. We were one of only 2 sides, I believe, in 2023 to beat Werribee. Against us, he had 24 touches, laid 9 tackles, had a bunch of clearances, kicked no goals, 5 behinds. And it occurred to me today, thinking about this, was that rightfully he should have probably kicked 3 goals and
Yeah,
they win the game. I wonder if the Cats looked at that match and thought, wow, this is like a dynamic player with a bit of experience under his belt, not
I
at
reckon
AFL
so.
level, but at VFL level. Let's get him in the building. I want to see. It's a simple one for me. I want to see Shaun Mannagh play.
Absolutely.
Honestly,
I'm
in
right
week
there with you.
one. Yeah,
I reckon
because he's you think he
I reckon
can?
he could I reckon he could. Out of all the players that the Cats have brought in, I reckon he'll be the most likely
Mm,
to get the nod for round 1. I reckon just because of his experience, he's a mature age player, and he could be,
mm.
as you're just saying, he could be that link that the Cats are just missing in that midfield, just to help out Guthrie and
He-
Dangerfield and all that.
He's an interesting player, Johnny. Like I remember watching, like he's very physical. He was lined up on Jai Clark in that game for the first half, and he was really probably giving Jai Clark a bit of a lesson about how to body players around stoppages and that sort of thing. To the point where I feel like they changed the matchup maybe in the second half. I maybe had Harry Benson or someone go to him. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I know I was watching Jai Clark because I was writing a scouting report thing for the Patreon about Jai Clark for that game, and I remember thinking, man, this is a great learning experience for Jai Clark because Shaun Mannagh
Yeah,
was really testing him with his body, um,
and
but also
now
just sort of
Shaun Mannagh can
like a
teach him
pesky
again.
kind of player, Johnny, like a
Yeah,
pest in terms of
nice.
like his ability to hit the scoreboard. Like he's an interesting player, sort of um, just brings a little bit of energy, I would say, wherever it is that he finds himself, as in the midfield, if it's inside forward 50. I really like him as a player to slot in there and be able to rotate through the midfield and have some impact. I think again, it's a great decision to try and bring in not just rookies, but experienced players who just haven't played AFL level yet, because I think they have the ability to make an instant impact and take a bit of the weight off the shoulders of Danger and the
Yeah.
others who might otherwise be overburdened. So I like it. I like that we hung on to Mitch Hardy as well. But yeah, what
Yes.
I want to see from Shaun Mannagh in 2024, I want to see him start. I want to see him lined up early. If it's not week one, I want it to be early, because I think that would mean he's had a massive preseason and he's earned himself a spot. And I just like the diversity of his skill set, not only to win a bunch of the footy. You just look at his stats and it's just game after game of 20 plus, 25 plus touches. But then, kicking goals as well. He kicked 83 goals in his last 47 games at Werribee. So, near enough to 2 goals a game. And the ability to kick bags. The Sandringham game,
Yeah.
Johnny, 25 touches, 7 goals.
Yeah.
It's insane. So,
That is insane.
looking forward to seeing that. Now, I want to move to another out of the midfield here, Johnny.
Out
Done
of the
Clohesy,
midfield.
who's sort of midfield. We've done Dangerfield as midfield. Shaun Mannagh. I want you to tell us what you want to see from tall timber down the back. Sam De Koning in 2024.
I want to see Sam De Koning find that form of 2022. Like his stats were a bit down on last year, but he played 4 less games because of the finals last season in 2022. So 2023 still was on the stats. It looks like it's a fairly decent year for him. Like still marks were up, tackles were pretty good. Um, disposals were pretty high, handballs, kicks, all that. It all looks really well. But I think just that's where, as you say, these stats don't tell the whole picture. He just looked off in 2023. Just didn't see him in his confidence as he was in 2022, and that's due part to second season of playing a whole season. And he had such a great 2022. It happens. Team players, especially his age, can come out, have a absolutely blistering year, and then drop off a bit the next year. And I was aware and afraid that might happen in 2023, and it did. So I'd just like to see him again, same as Dangerfield, just find his form, find his confidence in himself, and I think that will work really. He'll become that dominant defender again. And plus, other teams had a whole year, like the opposition forward line players had a whole year to work him out. How did he beat players? How can we beat him in the air, along the ground, or whatnot? So I feel like opposition also worked him out a bit. So it's just about tweaking his game plan, finding that form, finding his confidence, and yeah, I don't. That sounds dangerous. I don't think it'll take much for him to find that form. But yeah, it's just re organizing himself to output his best, because 2023 wasn't his best, and you could just tell he wasn't there every game. He always looked really down on himself, really annoyed with himself when he made mistakes. We didn't see that in 2022. You rarely saw him get annoyed at himself. That could be in part to, you know, a pretty unstable defensive line in a way with injuries, a lot of um, opposition teams, pressing a lot of attacks in 2023 and not being able to reassert himself in the right positions. So there's a whole lot of other things that can affect your game. But yeah, I think just re-engaging in his usual game plan and refi- finding the confidence in himself again, which I don't think he's lost it. It's just making sure he can tap into it a bit more. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, got the old mute button, got me. I
Ah,
really agree with you there. Like about the stats, in a lot of ways, they looked okay. But it was an eye test thing. But One thing I did like about his season and gives you confidence is I felt like he bounced back. He had a sort of a string of performances that were a
Mm,
bit like, yeah, I don't know, like the loss to GWS, he had 10 touches, 5 marks, then followed that up just the 10 touches, 3 marks against the Dogs, even though it was in a win. And then I thought the sort of, in a way, the low point maybe of the season for him was the game against Port over in Adelaide. 9
yep.
touches, 4 marks, and I have a feeling that was a game where Charlie Dixon really got under his skin maybe in the 3rd quarter. I can't
Ah, yep.
100% remember. I honestly feel like it's happened a couple of times now where De Koning's had the Dixon matchup, and I don't know, where Dixon has this ability to get under his skin. Um, I feel like in 2022 it happened, but then we charged back and beat them in the last quarter, and Sam De Koning played really well in the last quarter. This one, it was sort of got away from us in the second half. But I really liked Johnny, how he built into the final, say, third of his season. Against Brisbane, he had 15 touches, 5 marks. Against Freo, 17 touches, 9 marks. 15 touches, 7 marks against Port when we turned them over down at Kardinia Park. 16 touches, 3 marks against Collingwood. 13 and 6 marks against St Kilda, and then finished the season 17 touches, 6 marks against the Dogs. Like, he got more involved. I think we can't underrate how much maybe his confidence got a bit knocked. One, I
Mm,
think the whole team had a bit of a
it's
confidence knock. Bizarrely, like coming out from
yeah.
where they were in the grand final to then starting 0-3, and then he had the injury to go with it. So,
Yes.
he there's a few factors, but I totally agree with you. Like, I think he can get back to something, and I do think it's mainly a matter of just,
It's
getting back to being confident in your game.
and trying to find those intercept marks, which was down by a fair bit this year. It was his
Yeah, okay.
average, career average, which is 2022 was 2.2 and 2023 was 1.4. So that's a fair drop
Wow, okay. Hmm,
in intercept
yeah.
marks. So I think that could have also had a impact on him, not going finding that
Mm,
confidence to actually leave your man and intercept the marks. So it's, yeah, I think it's just that.
yeah,
I think once he does, that's because when we saw him in 2022, when he was intercepting, he just looked unstoppable. He was so confident in his own
yeah.
abilities that he could leave the man, take that mark, play on, or reset and pass it off to
Mm,
him, play it either Thomas Stewart or Duncan. And I felt like, yeah, it just felt like
mm,
he put his stats back up. He didn't have that in self belief that he could leave his man. And that could also be a thing of starting 0-3 and knowing that you have to
sure.
defend really strongly to make sure the opposition doesn't score. So that could also go, well, if I leave my man, am I going to be able to stop the ball going over to an open man in the forward line?
Mm,
So this could be a that could be another reason. But I've got faith in the Cats' sports and conditioning and game plan and off season that all these players are going to come back. They're going to be annoyed at what happened last year, and they're going to want to rectify a lot of games from last year.
mm, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. His total intercept possessions were down as well,
Mm,
by nearly 2 per game. So, yeah, it's sort of, I think that does back up like what you're talking about. And um, you know, just looking at even like the contested defensive one-on-ones, he faced 3 per game on average and lost 0.7 of them in 2022. Last year, it's interesting. Last year, he only faced 1.7, but he lost a higher percentage of them. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting.
yeah,
Um, Spoils, just having a look there, 4.6 in 2023. He was spoiling the ball about the same last year as he was in 2022. So, No, I like it, Johnny, and I think he can get back to his best, and I think he will. I'm going to pivot back to a young player who's had a bit of a
Sure.
tough start to his career at the Cats due to injury and that sort of thing, like trying to get on the field. And that's James Willis. James Willis, who was drafted, I think, in 2021, end of 2021. Maybe. Hope I'm getting that right. Um, only managed 4 games in 2022. Season best in that season was 18 touches and a goal against Sandringham. Managed one more game than that in 2023. He managed 5 matches in 2023. And that peaked in a game against Southport in a loss. He had 21 disposals, 5 tackles, 3 goals. And Johnny, in that game, in a match where the Cats were fairly comfortably beaten by Southport down at Cardinia Park, you saw the attributes that would have attracted the Cats to drafting a player like James Willis, and that was his ability to like explode out of a contest, run away from players, in quick time, sort of just that burst away from congestion through congestion. As I said, he kicked 3 goals. At least one of them was a really nice running, sort of just smacking it away on the run through 50. Um, just showed, I guess, in that game what you'd hope to see from him. And now it's hard. He played the 5 games last year, just the round 3. Then he went round 6, 7, 8, and 10. Didn't play again after that. So it's been a really hampered start to his career. So look, I think he's really talented. I think there's a lot of
Yep.
potential there. There's a lot of nice elements. And what I want to see is really simple. Like a lot of players the Cats had last year, I want to see him healthy. I want to get to see like 15 to 20 VFL games from James Willis in 2024. That's what I want to see for him. Now, obviously you want to see him play well, but really above anything, I want the quantity. I want to see him play a bunch of games so we can get a good look at him, so he can have an extended opportunity to put his best foot forward. And then by the end of the season, we'll all go, okay, we think we've got a pretty good idea about what James Willis is, what he can do if he's healthy. Because really it's been impossible to tell. He's just not been on the field enough. He's played 9 games since he came to the club. So health,
Yeah.
I'm wanting to see and I'm wishing for James Willis good health, so we can really get a
Absolutely.
look at him. And as I said, we
That'd
saw
be
it in
nice.
flashes. We saw it in flashes that
Yes.
the Southport game, if you want to go and watch, that's the one I'd direct you to because you'll see those moments where you're like, that's why he was brought in. Let's
Yep.
round it out, Johnny. We're going to another tall player, but at the opposite
Let's do
end
it.
of the ground to your last one. We
Oh,
want to get your thoughts. What do you want to see from
yeah.
Jeremy Cameron, Johnny? What do you want to see from Big Jezza? Like a hell of a
Big
season
Jezza.
last year to start.
Hell of a season. I'd like to see that hell of a season this year and hopefully not get knocked out by Gary Rowan. And I tell you what, there's not much more you can really say
That'd
about
help.
that would help out Jessica Cameron than not getting knocked out by a teammate and hopefully not suffering some form of shoulder injury through the season that really just derails your entire season. Apart from that, like same as Dangerfield is just such a elite player that this long off season is going to really benefit him. Get that shoulder fixed. They had got him and Hawkins had surgery basically the day after the final game, so they've had plenty of time to get better. And if Cameron can play like he did during the first part of 2023, it's going to help the Cats so much. And there's no reason why he can't. There's absolutely no reason why he can't get back to that form and continue it and just teach Shannon Neal, Foster, Oliver Henry, bring them along with the ride as well, show them how, to play AFL at a really elite level. And Cats just use him up more up the ground. I really liked it when he went up the ground as well. He was really effective, especially during 2022 when he started going up the ground, getting involved, getting more up there. and hopefully that way we can leave Hawkins, Oliver Henry, Foster, Shannon Neal, whoever else is going to be in there to really start dominating the forward line yet again. And I tell you, a fit, healthy Cameron who can boost this Cats team massively if he starts slotting goals like he did in 2022 and the start of 2023. And as I said, it's not going to take much because he's, you know, an absolute superstar. So if he can find that form, which I 100% believe he will, then there's not much else I want to see. I just want him to see another great year do what he does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I don't know. I know there's a lot of there can be pessimism sometimes. I get it. Like fan base has to protect itself a little bit and go, oh,
Yeah,
fuck, it all could come to an end. It could all be done. Maybe we don't get back to contention. I find myself going through last year. The more we've sort of analysed it across the last couple of months as we've dived back in of looking back at stuff. Really doing a bit of a post mortem on the season, but then looking ahead to this year and in doing that research, you look back and you go, holy crap, like so many campaigns for players were derailed by injury,
mm,
and you just go, yes, you're never going to have a perfect run with health, but
yep,
getting a decent run, a great run at health doesn't necessarily guarantee you a flag, but having an awful run of injuries can certainly lose you one.
yeah,
Like there
definitely.
is a critical point that you reach where it's like we've just got too many players injured. We've just got too many of
Yep,
our best players out. Um, I love to look back though, John, and go, for all the talk about Cameron's second half of the year, 7 goals, 4 from 14 touches against
yep.
Collingwood in round 22. Like, man, he
That
started the season
nearly
so
won
hot.
us that
2
game.
goals, 6.
Yeah,
Yeah, off his own boot. Like,
yeah.
um,
As I said,
and he nearly
it
did the
was
same
just
against Carlton earlier in the year.
yeah, it was such a there was just that chunk from when is it round 9 all the way till round
Mm,
22 where he could have barely even round 7 we kicked 3 goals against
yeah.
Essendon. He didn't go above 3 until that Collingwood game,
Mm,
and that just, yeah, paints a picture of either injury, couldn't play well enough, or the ball wasn't going in there enough. But and again, it's just that season of the Cats did play good football for most of it, but the football that they
mm,
played was not good enough to beat the teams that beat us. And yeah, it was a
sure.
tough year for the Cats. And you just came across teams that, you know, make sense. We were the reigning premiers, best team in the league. That after 2022, the oppositions were going to lift, and the Cats couldn't lift up to that level and couldn't compete week in, week out. So yeah, I'm not. It was a disappointing year, but I tell you, the more, as you said, the more we look back on it, it's like, well, it was a disappointing year because of so many outside factors that happened to the Cats, and the fact that when it
He
mattered, they just couldn't rise to the right level
mm.
at the right time. And tell you
He
what,
kicked
it's such easy, simple things that the Cats can look over the off season. Go,
mm,
this is where we went wrong. This is how we fix it, and this is how we evolve.
and so much of that is just getting the right players on the field again and
Yeah,
getting them in position to play as much time as possible. And he kicked 13 goals, 20 from around 9. Sorry, rather from round 10, no, round 9 against Richmond through to round 21 against Port. He kicked 13 goals, 20 behinds, including 1 goal, 5 in the loss to Fremantle, including 0 goals, 4. He collectively went 1 goal, 9 in the 2 losses to Freo. Um, that sort of stuff makes a big difference,
yeah,
in the context
definitely.
of a season. So hopefully everything's back on tip-top shape. His form's back, his health's back, his radar is
He's
zoned
back.
in for the goal kicking. Yep, Can't wait, Johnny. Cannot wait.
Cameron can win games off his boot. Absolutely can win any game off his own boot. If he's at his elite best, he'll win games for the Cats easily.
I feel like the irony of Geelong's season in a lot of ways was the attack, like Cameron's kicking, against Carlton, 6 goals, 1. Kicks 3-3 against Gold Coast. Like, there's a number of times throughout the season where it felt like we could only get one thing right. When the attack played really well, the defense just leaked goals the other way, and we'd lose high-scoring shootouts to like Collingwood, to Carlton, to Collingwood again later in the year. And then when we play, when the back line, arced up and played well, we could barely kick a goal to save ourselves, in sort of obviously we had that middle third where we really dominated in the season, that Hawthorn, that 5-game stretch from Hawthorn through, wasn't even a middle third really, it was just a 5-game stretch, where we looked great, but then, it was just too up and down. But anyway, let's not get too far in the rearview mirror because we've got a whole season to look forward to. That is all for this part of the show, the public part of the show, what we want to see in 2024. We're going to go now onto the Patreon. We're going to talk about our final installment of our Immortal Moments. Johnny, thanks so much for joining me on the show. And thank you so much for listening, for watching, for supporting the pod, for supporting the Hoops Crew Media Network. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Hit it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can follow the pod. You can just subscribe to it. Put us in your feed so you get all the episodes. And until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats!